Hi there, my name is Ryan Weiss, and today I'm going to be talking about 3 reasons you should get your processes simplified, documented, and followed by everyone. Now, those are 3 different steps you got to take, so I'm going to give 3 reasons why this is so critical and why you need to do it in that sequence. Because starting with, if you have complex processes, if you have something that's too complex for you to write down, to document, to clearly outline, how difficult is it for you to train people, to train the people who you're bringing on board? And if it's really hard to train those people, to bring them on board, then it's really hard to scale, and it's really hard to ensure consistency for your clients, and it's really hard to make sure that people are being trained properly. So if you don't have your processes simple enough that you can document them, then you might be doing it wrong. And this is a core part of my passion and my belief. For any of you who've been following me or watching me for any period of time, you know that simple processes is essential to everything we try to do. So getting your processes simplified is a first step. And we have a really clever way of doing that. The second piece is to get your processes documented. So if you can get your process simplified to where people know what to do and when to do it, and by the way, why to do it, then you can get to the next step of documenting them. And there are different levels of process that you need to document. There are very high level, broad processes that really bring your departments together, really bring the different groups together. So you need these cross-functional core processes. And this is something that so many organizations miss, that when organizations go and start documenting processes, what I find is that they start creating SOPs, and they start creating SOPs for a specific department, for a specific role, for a specific task. And that's where people start. And I'll tell you, this is a huge mistake that I see over and over and over again, that people have big binders and manuals full of individual processes that may or may not coordinate between departments. They may or may not give the other departments what they need. They may or may not succeed based on not getting what you need from other departments. So the first level of process is something that we call optics. This is enabling you to go cross-departmental with your process, understand what is needed by your process and what others need from your process in order to be successful. And this is really critical to document this type of process. And this is a great way, by the way, to start simplifying. And it sounds like it's complexifying, but it's actually starting to simplify, because you don't have to make as many compensations for things if you start to become very clear, what do we need and what do others need? And then we can be very clear about the simple process that we need to do in order to compensate for those things. The third one is getting people to follow your processes, and getting people to follow processes. It's a big question I get asked a lot. That it's one thing to document processes, it's another thing to simplify processes, but how do you get people to consistently follow the simplified process? And I'm going to give you a couple of insights about that. One is that if people are comfortable where they are, if they're comfortable with their habits, behaviors, the things that they're doing, the thing that they're doing consistently, if they're comfortable, then they're not going to change to your new process. They're not going to change to a new consistent process. So there is a level of psychology that needs to play a part here in getting people to follow the processes that you've simplified and documented. And that psychology starts with understanding the pain that exists today. And by the way, one of the problems of just documenting SOPs and just documenting lots of SOPs is that if you start there, people have no reason to follow them. They're like, they don't feel any discomfort with what they've got. They're like, why should I read this new SOP that's been created and given to me if I'm still comfortable doing things the way I've done them? So the optics system, the way that we walk through this process, we start with, what's the purpose of this process? What's the scope of this process? What gaps exist in this process? And as you start to really understand the purpose, the scope, and the gaps, what that does is it starts the level of discomfort in your team at staying where they are, at continuing to do things the way they're doing things. And then we get into this, what we call the SIPOC, and this is the alignment of people and process. This is that part that I talked about at the beginning, where you don't want to just document a process. You want to also understand who needs something from your process and what do they need to be successful, and who do you need things from in your process, and what inputs do you need from them. So that's the second part. The third part, we get into something called QVS, quality, value, and speed. And we start identifying those pain points within your process, the quality pain points, the value pain points, and the speed or timeliness pain points in your process. And as we start doing that, we keep uncovering that pain. We keep creating a need, a desire to solve these problems. Then we get to the next one, which is the accountability responsibility matrix. And we start to find gaps there. Like, we don't know exactly who's responsible and what they're responsible to do, or who's accountable for different elements. And I know that there might be some complexity in the way that it sounds, but I'd love to walk you through and kind of take you through the steps, step by step, to show you it's basically 5 core steps to enable you to not just simplify your processes, but also to get them documented in a very clear way, and more importantly, in a way that people will follow, because it actually solves the problems that they have. And then to get them followed. The pain that gets uncovered in those first couple of steps leads us towards a really impactful, powerful process for people to follow, with a compelling reason of why to follow it. And all of that becomes really essential in this process. So thank you for joining us this morning. Have a great day. Take care.